This is the instrument that we send up with the weather balloon. While most people see the weather balloon, the instrument is obviously the most important part. And what it measures is right here, this is the temperature sensor, so we can measure temperature all the way up through the atmosphere. And then we also have, as it moves up, air passes through this little slot and comes out the bottom. And I don't know if you can see, but there's a little bar in there, and then as air goes over there, we can measure the relative humidity and dew point as it goes up, so we can get moisture throughout the air. And then inside of it, we have a way to measure the pressure all the way up through the atmosphere, so that kind of pressure systems are what are really the driving factor behind the weather of the area. And then inside it also has a GPS. And from the GPS, we can calculate how the instrument moves as it goes up there, and then we're able to calculate the height it's at and the wind speeds and all that. And from basically these four instruments, we can learn a lot about the atmosphere as it goes up through the air. So that's basically the instruments that are on this package that we send up twice a day with the weather balloon.
Okay, and how many years have you been sending them up? I mean, I know you use a helium balloon, so I mean that's not new technology there. I mean, has this been going on a long time?
Yeah, this has been going on for a while. We've been using, we actually use the hydrogen out here. It's the not as safe alternative to helium, but I think it's the cheaper one. But anyways, they've been we've known that getting measurements throughout the atmosphere have been super important for a while. So I believe we've been using balloons in limited capacity since the 50s, because there's been no good way to get measurements throughout the atmosphere. Before that, they tried to use kites to try to send the instrument up and then get it back. But now a balloon's great, because while the instrument goes up through the atmosphere, it just transmits the data back to us. So we don't actually have to retrieve the instrument. We can actually just get the data in real time. So we've been using balloons since about the 50s.
Okay, and the data you collect, I realize it's kind of a general question, but how does that help when you put together forecasts? How does that help you predict weather patterns?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are mostly concerned with the weather that goes down at the surface, as humans, because that's where it impacts us. But all the weather really starts up, kind of where the clouds form. So we need to get an understanding of what the atmosphere is like from the surface all the way up through these balloons pop at about 18 miles in the air. So we get a snapshot up there, so that way we can get an idea of what the air is like up there. And then we do this, there's about 75 locations in the United States that do the same thing at the same time, and then about 700 to 800 places around the world that do it at the same time. So basically, we can get a little snapshot of all of the measurements in the atmosphere across the world. And then what we do is we take all of that, tons and tons of data, combine it with surface observations and satellites and other sensors, and then we put it into the computer forecast models. A lot of times you'll hear the meteorologists around here say, oh, the models are doing this and doing that. So basically we take all the data, put it into these big supercomputers, and then they run physics and math and chemistry equations, and basically that's what kind of gives us, and then they put out what they think is going to happen for the weather for the next, about 7 days. And so we put it in, so, we have multiple computer models. They all take in the data, and then they run their equations, and that's how we kind of get the idea of what the forecast is going to be like. Because getting out the 7 days, that the only way we know what's going to happen is these computer models, and those computer models get their data is from the weather balloons like this.
Okay. See, I think you really hit all the main points. Am I missing anything that needs to be said, do you think? Or?
Not, I mean, I guess just because maybe people might add, like the most questions we get is how high do they go? They go about 18 miles, and then other people ask, well, how far can they go? And depending on where, the jet stream, they talk about that, depending on where that is, and these can easily make it into Oklahoma, because they definitely go east of us, or maybe Arkansas, and then it usually takes about an hour and a half to go from here 18 miles up and pop.